Ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled to be here as part of Pontiano's client lunch. As Con said, I'm a futurist. I spend a lot of my time going into research labs all over the world and talking to scientists about different things that they're working on and the implications of what they're doing, and even why they've decided to invest their time and heart and effort and money in all kinds of innovations. And I get to see some really, really cool stuff. And I'll be sharing a lot of that with you today. I'd like to start our journey into the future with something that is going to impact all of us in our lives, and that is the future of healthcare. There are a couple of really big trends that are underpinning massive changes in the way that we're going to live our lives as humans over the coming decades. One of them is advances in technology. Another is advances in fundamental medicine and understanding the human body. But underpinning this are the ubiquitous networks that we now see around the world that help us take information from all kinds of places and share it in real time. So let's start with a little bit of the here and now, and that is the world of wearable technologies. So most of you would be familiar with things like smartwatches or Fitbits or other wearables. Does anybody have a wearable in here? A few. Well, today's wearables are able to do things like monitor your heart rate, your breathing, your exercise, your sleep patterns, and some other basic physiological signs. Tomorrow's wearables are going to get a whole lot more personal. At the University of California in Berkeley, earlier this year, they've come out with a prototype sensor that is bendable and flexible and is able to do molecular level analysis based on the sweat in your body. They have two versions, one that's a little wristband and another that's a headband. With this kind of sensor, you will be able to detect all kinds of physiological conditions inside of you in real time. You'll be able to detect drug use and drug levels. So imagine a not too distant future where if you're taking medicine and you need to make sure that you maintain a steady state, your wearable is able to help monitor that and let you know when you're getting low on some chemical that you need. We're also going to see these wearable sensors embedded in our clothes. Already in the athletics world, there are smart garments that have up to 18 sensors in a workout top that are able to help you measure your heart rate, your breathing, your muscle activity, how hard you're working your muscle. But there will be a lot more uses for this too. In Australia, Rio Tinto in Hunter Valley has come out with a smart cap, like a baseball cap, that has sensors across the headband that is able to figure out when someone who's driving a vehicle is getting into a micro-fatigue and have an alert sent to their mobile phone. In the future, when we have smart clothing with sensors, you won't have that alert sent to your mobile phone. The clothing itself will have devices, haptics, the sense of touch built into it. So imagine that you're driving and about to fall asleep and your clothes start shaking you awake. That's on the very, very near-term horizon. We're also starting to see all kinds of advances with sensors that are made with silicon that is patterned into ways that make it bendable and wearable. This is a company that has invented something called the BioStamp RC from Research Connect, and it's commercial already. You can put it on lots of different places in your body, and it's able to monitor all kinds of physiological conditions in real time, and through a Bluetooth connection, send it to an app on your smartphone. It's going to really change how we measure our physiological state in a way that is comfortable and waterproof, so you don't have to be stuck in a hospital bed or in a research lab to do this kind of testing. There are also advances happening with the diagnosis of lots of different diseases. A few weeks ago, a researcher in Australia, in the suburbs of Sydney, got a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Research Foundation for US $2.6 million for their world-leading HIV diagnostic kit. Every year, there are more than 100 million HIV tests that are conducted, typically in places that are very impoverished. This kit allows self-diagnosis in a way that is reliable and relatively pain-free, other than a small needle prick. It's going to start changing healthcare in many parts of the world. You may have heard of a technology called augmented reality. I'll be talking a bit more about AR, as it's known colloquially, a bit more after lunch. But there are some amazing medical uses for this technology as well. When I talk about augmented reality, really what I'm talking about is a digital overlay that's presented in your field of vision over the real world. The glasses that I'm showing here are from a company in the US called Evina, and they're used by nurses or by physicians to help someone understand the vasculature system in a person's body. It uses multispectral light to give the nurse or doctor what is in effect X-ray vision. So I don't know if you've ever had a needle or an IV put into you where they've had to muck around a bit and it really hurts. Imagine having your physicians using this and being able to see exactly where things are in your body. It's going to change how this is used in so many settings. Pain-free needles might be on the horizon. Augmented reality has so many uses. One that I find particularly astounding is a prototype unit that's been developed at Oxford University in the UK that is designed to help people who are legally blind through things like macular degeneration or glaucoma gain their vision back. So it's still early prototype days, but they are doing testing with people, a number of people in field trials. So you're wearing these glasses, and then there's a backpack that you're wearing that's powering it. And when you look at an image, it is eliminating the background of the image and sharpening up the vision of what you're seeing. So instead of seeing a big blur, you're actually able to see the silhouette of a person or even the glasses of a person. The image here, it's maybe a little bit hard to see because of the light, but what you're actually seeing in this picture is what this gentleman who's wearing these glasses, who's legally blind, is now able to see. So can you imagine being able to walk in the world and see where objects are, or to see a person's face for the first time, perhaps in decades? Augmented reality has so many different uses. One of the ways that it would be used is in medical training, where literally you can look at a person in regular view and then start peeling back layers of skin and tissue and cartilage and get right down to the skeletal system. Imagine in the not-too-distant future, you're going into your doctor's office and they're telling you about a condition that you might have, and you're really struggling to try to visualize what this looks like. Imagine that you now have a pair of these glasses on, and the doctor can actually pull away this virtual image of you and show you exactly what's happening in your body. And you can go inside an organ and look at what's happening and look at it from views that would not even be possible in real world life. One of the initial uses for this technology is in medical training, and there's a lot of investment happening here. Microsoft HoloLens has partnered with a number of medical institutions to do just that. One of the cousin technologies of augmented reality is called virtual reality. So instead of having a digital image superimposed on real world things that you're able to see, you're basically blocking out the real world and you're entering into a digital world. Well, it turns out that when you have someone who may have been paralyzed or suffered a serious injury, being able to imagine virtually moving your limbs starts to reinforce the mind-body connection and the neurons that make up the ability for you to move your limbs. Researchers in Brazil have been working on a project called the Walk Again Project. And what they're doing is combining virtual reality with a robotic exoskeleton and physical therapy. And it's still experimental, but the early results are absolutely astounding. They've worked with 8 paralyzed patients so far and have achieved results where people are able to regain feeling in their lower limbs through this combination of things. So the first step that they do is they use a virtual reality device from a company called Oculus Rift, which is known by Facebook, and they have them imagine in a virtual world that they're moving their limbs. Then the second stage is they start to work with them with a robotic exoskeleton, which is pictured here, it looks like the harness, and walking on a treadmill to start to get the body to physically move again. And then they combine these technologies at the same time, which is why this person looks like they've got a really funny thing on their face. That's the virtual reality mask. And what has happened through this combination is that people who have had no feeling whatsoever in their lower body have been able to regain control of bladder and bowel, have been able to start to feel and move limbs. One woman who was paralyzed even decided to give birth to a child because she was able to feel her lower body. These advances are literally extraordinary. Now, when I talk about virtual reality and augmented reality, right now we're talking about glasses or in some cases really big headsets. Where it's going in the future is with smart contacts that combine biotech, cameras, communications, information technology, all into a device that we'll be wearing in our eyes. There are already patents out from companies like Google and Samsung and Sony that have designed contact lenses that have cameras that start to either take a picture or film based on blinking. That is just the beginning though. Imagine being in a room like this and you haven't seen somebody for a year and they're not wearing their name tag and you think, I remember that lady or that guy and you can't get their name right. Well, imagine having superimposed in your field of vision their name, where you met them, and in all sorts of circumstances. It gets better still. Yes, we're about 5 years away from that. But it gets better still because it turns out that our tear ducts have incredible chemicals in them that allow us to do things like measure our glucose levels or be able to detect a range of pre-cancerous situations. It gets better still, and that is that there are companies who are working to combine this with vision that is self-focusing. So if you're like me and you need reading glasses, today you don't have an option. You're just sort of popping them on and off. You know, that's just it. There's no surgery yet for it. Well, imagine that your contact lens just does the auto-focusing depending on what you're looking at. And not only that, but it has the ability to go into telephoto, so I can look over there and see details. Or it has the ability to go into night vision. We're at the cusp of a change in the way that we start to interface with the world. And by the time this comes to market, this opaque bit here is going to be made out of a material, most likely graphene, that will be completely translucent. You'll have no idea that somebody is wearing these. We'll start to see these coming on the market probably in no less than 5 years, maybe a little bit beyond, but there are a lot of companies that are investing big money in this space. And when it comes to vision, there was an extraordinary breakthrough about 3 years ago by a lady by the name of Sheila Nierenberg. She's a neuroscientist in the United States. And what she did was decoded the signals that come from our brain to our eyes, or from our eyes to our brain, that give us the recognition of what we're seeing. And that has extraordinary implications. Because right now, if you're legally blind, there really is no way that you're going to be able to see again. But because we now have a pattern, an electrical signal that we can mimic, that is able to send images to the brain, there's the potential of a true bionic eye. Experiments are happening right now where people who are legally blind have a gene dye injected into their eye, and wearing these special glasses are able to have images transmitted directly to their brains so that they can start to see again the things that are in their field of vision. We'll also see tremendous advances in 3D printing. One that is particularly relevant to the here and now is from a company called Keynote, and there are a lot of companies doing this, that basically are doing 3D scans of their bodies and custom printing a brace or some other prosthetic that fits you exactly. This particular one is very lightweight and can be done in cool, funky colors. We're also starting to see this whole new world of bioprinting, that is printing with living tissue. This is a 3D printer that is commercial, coming out of really young grad students in Philadelphia, in the United States, that was designed to print living tissue. It's already in research labs in 25 different countries. And it has so much promise for things like drug testing. In the not-too-distant future, imagine that you go into your doctor's office and one of your cells is sampled, and then you have the structure grown in the doctor's office, and you test the drug right there before you put it in your bodies. And you see whether it's going to be effective or whether you're going to have an adverse reaction. The world of customized medicine is about to happen as well. A researcher in Glasgow, Scotland, has designed a prototype 3D printer that is able to do chemicals at a molecular level. So imagine drugs that are formulated very specifically for your own body. There are robot hands. This is a really cool experiment that was just announced in scientific journals a few months ago, that are modeled by 3D scanning a cadaver hand, printing a robot hand that is able to manipulate things like rolls of tape and CDs, something that most robots can't do. What they intend to do with this is to be able to grow tendons and skin on top of this. Imagine that if you need a prosthetic, it's modeled after your exact hand, your foot, your body part, and it has a real human skin grown onto that. That is going to be a life changer. There are already experiments underway to help people who've had strokes to regain their movement using very lightweight exoskeletons that are controlled with brain impulses. The way it works is there's a little backpack again, and they're very lightweight, and instead of just doing your physio exercises at a clinic, you can actually take it back in the real world and use it in your kitchen. Today, it can hold up to about 1 liter of water in weight. That's going to change so many people's lives. Going into the future, though, what will humanity look like? What sort of advances might we have? Are we going to turn mostly into machines? Are we going to take machines in our body? Well, computer chips are shrinking smaller and smaller. In 2013, researchers in Michigan came up with not a chip, but a complete computer that was 1 millimeter wide. So that has computer processing, storage, and wireless communications. One of the initial applications that's not human tested yet will be for measuring the pressure for people in their eyes for people with glaucoma. Chips are getting smaller and smaller. There's a company called Proteus in the United States that has a chip that's about the size of the head of a pin that is embedded in pills and approved by the FDA. So imagine you have a patient who's not very good at minding how much medication they're taking. You can actually monitor this because it transmits from inside of you to a patch on your skin to a smartphone with your permission to a carer or your doctor. There are also camera pills. This is another incredible advance. I don't know if any of you have ever had diagnostic procedures where you've had to go in and you're looking either up or down. Well, imagine not having to go into the hospital and not needing anesthesia, instead just swallowing a little pill that is able to actually inspect your esophagus or your colon. That's going to change life for so many people. There's also very early experimental work being done with encapsulating teeny tiny robots into capsules that are made out of ice. These robots fold up like origami, and then once the ice melts in your stomach, they unfold. The first application is to help people who've managed to swallow button-sized batteries that have lodged inside their body and are starting to burn them. So it's able to basically push this little button battery out of the way, release a drug to help heal you, and it's controlled by an MRI by a doctor from the outside. Imagine the alternative, getting sliced open for that. We're also starting to see human implants, and right now, I've got a couple of friends that have implants here, on both thumbs, with RFID and near-field communication to be able to do things like open doors and do passwords and stuff. That's just the tip of the iceberg of where human implants are going. How about a memory upgrade? Where the first medical use is for people who perhaps have epilepsy, and unfortunately that disease starts to destroy your memory, or have Alzheimer's or dementia. And they've started to decipher the codes on how humans make and store memories, and are looking at ways to reproduce it on a chip implanted in your brain. DARPA also has been doing a lot of work in this space. And one of the things that they're looking at is a little ankle chip that is able to simulate a soldier's nervous system. So one of the first uses that they plan is to help alleviate things like chronic pain. But another thing that they're thinking of is to use these same impulses to control the mood of people in the military, say somebody with post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, there are some really cool applications implications, but you've got to wonder about the privacy implications too, especially when it's your employer that has put a chip on the inside of you and you're not going to get out. Who's going to own that chip when your tour of duty is over? Now, all of this might sound sort of far-fetched, but the material graphene that I mentioned earlier is proving to be a game changer. For those of you who haven't heard of graphene, it is harder than a diamond, 300 times harder than steel. It's bendable, it's thin, and it's a fantastic conductor as well. This is a wonder material, and already in Trieste, Italy, at the European flagship for graphene, they've been doing testing to see how graphene can be molded directly to neurons, and so far it looks to be successful. No glial tissue, scar tissue, has been formed when meshing this material directly onto neurons, and that is actually what's pictured here. In the 2030s, some futurists believe that we will have implants that directly go to our brain, that are injected into our capillaries, and they'll be little teeny mini robots that are made out of DNA, and they will connect our brains directly to the World Wide Web. Have you ever imagined wishing that you could just think something and know the answer? Well, imagine thinking a question and having Google, or whatever the Google of the 2030s is, give you that response. Imagine thinking that you'd like to send an email or a text to someone and off it goes. Whoops, didn't mean to send that. Imagine being in a situation where you need to learn a new skill, and suddenly it's downloaded just like in the Matrix. Or imagine having all of your memories and everything that you see and do stored up in the cloud. Of course, if something like this was hacked, what are you going to do? Are you going to wipe out your brain? Restart? Reboot? Do you really want a company like Google knowing every single thought that you have? The future is going to be a little bit wild and wacky, but one of the questions is, will technology let us live forever? And there is a movement that some of you may have heard of called the transhumanist movement. And these are people who have the view that they really would like their personalities themselves, what they consider the essence of themselves, to live forever. And ultimately what they'd like to do is upload their whole brain up into a computer and then eventually download into maybe a robot and at some point in the further future into a living body, which may be a human body that's bioprinted. An interim step, though, is creating something called a mind file, which is basically a simulcast of all kinds of memories that you have, documentation, things that you put out on social media, photographs, and be able to have it replicated, let's say, in a robot house like that, that you're able to converse with. And by the way, this one, BNF48, up in the middle, this is a real experiment. It's modeled off of a lady, Dina Rothblatt, who's still very much alive. But you can actually have a conversation with BNF48, and she responds like the real Dina. So going into the far future, we're going to see some major changes to humanity, because what we will be doing is combining nanotech, biotech, information technology, and cognitive artificial intelligence in new and interesting ways. In the 2030s and 2040s, it's quite likely that we're going to have little nanobots in our bodies doing all sorts of things, perhaps fixing all kinds of medical ailments, or even preventing them at the very, very first sign of trouble. When this starts to happen, the question is, will we still be humans? Especially if we start taking machine technology into our body. I have a view that once this starts to happen, we're going to start creating a new species that I'm calling Homo technica. combination of Homo sapiens and technology. The world of emerging technologies. And I'd like to share a bit more about augmented reality with you. Before lunch, I talked about a few of the medical applications. But this technology is one of the game-changing technologies that we're starting to see going mainstream now and over the next couple of years, both on a personal basis and in a corporate and enterprise basis. There are a number of companies that are investing in this, a couple that are making glasses that are very high definition in terms of the imagery that they create, are Microsoft HoloLens and another company called Beta 2. So if you can imagine that you're looking at something like a car or any kind of model, and in front of you, you can use your hands and gestures to pull it apart and see what's inside of it. These glasses create what's called a mixed reality that superimposes this digital world on top of your view. One of the things that's happening in the enterprise space is exemplified by a company called Dacry, which is based in California in the US. They've designed a smart helmet. So this helmet works just like a helmet would in a construction industry, but with an added bonus in that imagine you've got someone doing maintenance and they're looking out over a field of pipes and they can see superimposed on their vision what is in the pipe, the temperature of the liquid or gas that's in the pipe. They can turn it into infrared vision and actually see thermal imaging. There are cameras built into these devices that allow them to collaborate with colleagues in a back office as well. These types of advances have tremendous implications for being able to do complex work where you might otherwise need a manual, but in a hands-free way. I'd like to show you a short video of augmented reality that requires not just glasses, but also allows you to use your smartphone to make things come to life. Okay, I was going to show you what it looks like to have a virtual reality headset on. These things right now, virtual reality is where you can't see the real world. Oh, there it is. It's not going to come back. You can see I play around with a lot of this stuff. And let me tell you, I love working in it, so does everybody. And it's not very comfortable. You know, you have it on for a couple of minutes and you just cannot wait to get it off. But when you're wearing a virtual reality headset, it is unbelievable how real it can feel. I was playing around with a demonstration from University of Newcastle where they had designed a virtual reality environment where you walk up to the edge of a cliff and then you walk over and see what happens. And I was on a trade show floor, and I got up to the edge, and my feet just did not want to move anymore. I did not want to walk over the cliff. It's just so weird how your mind tells you that there's something dangerous that you're about to do because it feels real. Eventually, they coaxed me to walk over the cliff, and I actually felt like I was falling. My stomach went right up like on a roller coaster, and I was so glad that the ambulation actually slowed before I hit the bottom. This is going to be a game changer in so many ways. Already there are companies like IKEA that have stores that are virtual reality. So one of the experiments that they have is to have customers with virtual reality glasses look at how kitchen finishes can be changed. So you can imagine in the future this would be your exact kitchen rather than a model room. What I really love about this particular demonstration is this little icon right here, and that changes your point of view. So you can look at your new kitchen from the perspective of someone 3 feet high, like a kid. Or you can telescope up and look at it from the perspective of someone who's 6'4". You can get a completely different view of what your world might look like. There are companies like Meyer and eBay that are doing experiments. Audi in the United States is doing experiments with VR in showrooms so that when you're looking at these cars, you can actually see a car with the exact finishes and custom touches that you want on there. And it's okay. Virtual reality is also being used in a commercial space to sell property that is not yet being built. This is a picture from some developers called VR Star that have been doing work with Land and Board to look at off-the-plan property. And what they did was they used drones to film at the height that different apartments would be at, so that as you're looking at this new property in a virtual reality view, you actually see the exact view that you would have from any particular property. Drones are going to be a big part of the urban landscape, and they come in lots of different shapes and sizes. Right now, drones are being used quite extensively for a range of videography applications. Real estate is one industry where drones are being used quite extensively to do filming like the panoramas. They're being used by all kinds of utilities to do asset inspections of things like mobile towers and gas and oil pipelines and electricity pipelines. There's even a drone that's based out of the U.S. called Alpha, where you've got sensors around your perimeter of your house that are able to detect motion. And if motion is detected, this drone watches and it starts filming in real time anything that it sees and sends it right back to your smartphone. There are delivery drones that are being contemplated by a lot of companies. But drones are being used for a lot of different things. Australia Post is trialing drone delivery in rural areas to be able to get from a rural post box to someone's house. Domino's Pizza has been doing a drone delivery experiment in New Zealand. This is just the tip of the iceberg. In the coming years, we're very likely to be seeing drone highways in the sky. That is, looking at how we segment the airspace in our cities to accommodate the traffic that is likely to occur from these flying machines. And increasingly, they won't be controlled by humans, they'll be completely autonomous. When we talk about cities in the future, we've got to talk about driverless cars. And unfortunately, they're not going to be all cool looking like the picture I just showed you. We're more likely to be seeing things that are electric vehicles that might look like some of the Google cars, or an automated taxi trial that's happening in the UK. Tesla, of course, is looking more at the luxury end. Driverless cars are really fascinating, and need you think that this is just a couple of companies experimenting? That is absolutely not the case. Every auto manufacturer in the world, bar none, is investing in driverless technology. And a couple of months ago, Ford announced that by 2021, it will have a fleet of cars that it produces 100% autonomous, aimed at the ride-sharing industry. These cars will have no steering wheel, no brakes, no accelerator. And this isn't just future stuff. Already, high-end models like the Volvo have all kinds of advanced sensors built into them. This particular model has sensors that are able to detect pedestrians or large animals or even a bicyclist in its path and start taking mitigating action. One of the things that you'll see in these kinds of luxury cars are also an advanced form of cruise control, a pilot assist, where if you have a car going too slow in front of you, instead of taking your foot on the brake and having to go on and off cruise control, it will just adjust the speed by using these sensors that are built into the car to do that for you. These are the first steps for really what is a robot driving a car. We're also going to see other kinds of robots inhabiting our streets and footways. Domino's has an absolutely adorable little robot called Drew that they're experimenting with pizza deliveries in Brisbane. It has a hot and cold department, and right now it's being trialed in Brisbane on footpaths. There is a human that is looking to control it, but eventually it will be 100% autonomous. We will start to see an environment where vehicles on the road have all kinds of sensors and cameras and are communicating with each other about the distances and speeds that they're driving, as well as telegraphing information about the built environment. Things like potholes in a road can be telegraphed to help self-repairing cities, with little fleets of robots going out and fixing things that cars might see. More importantly, though, our signage and our infrastructure is going to come alive with sensors. So instead of a robot needing robot vision to figure out what the speed limit says, the speed limit is going to be transmitting to this vehicle cloud. This is the speed limit here. We're going to see traffic lights that transmit exactly how long they'll be green or red or yellow. Our environment is getting to be automated. So what might this automated world look like? That is what researchers are calling slot-based autonomous vehicles. The only thing that haven't slotted in is us humans. But will that be our future? Well, we are going to see automated vehicles, but there may be some unintended consequences. For instance, there is a ripple effect that we will start to have both in insurance and in our legal system, and that is who is actually responsible when something goes wrong. There have already been some pranks with Google cars in California, one where a Google car thought that a bus was going to yield, and it didn't, and it pranked it. Luckily, nobody was hurt. Another really funny incident happened also in California where a cop saw a Google car driving too slow and obstructing traffic, went to pull it over and give a ticket to somebody, but there was nobody in the driver's seat. So when you start thinking about this autonomous world, you have to think about liability, especially when a car has a mode where sometimes it's being driven by a human and sometimes it's being driven by a machine. Who is responsible, especially if there is an accident? What kind of implications are there for insurance? And there are other implications as well. There's going to be a ripple effect. Think about how much revenue is raised by governments for traffic infringements. When cars are 100% automated, say goodbye to your traffic light revenue and your bustling revenue and everything else that governments make a lot of money from. There are other implications too, though. Imagine all the businesses that rely on drivers inside of cars for their livelihood. So you have to think about all the people who drive for a living. What's going to happen in 10 years when almost every vehicle is automated? A lot of people drive for a living. There are also hotels along roadways. And what's going to happen to the livelihood of all these different petrol stations where people not just buy petrol, they also get food and buy other things. So there's a very long tail ripple. We are going to see all kinds of robots in our environment. All kinds of jobs are going to be automated either through robotics or through artificial intelligence. And it's not going to affect just people driving cars. With AI today, there are already in the finance industry what they call robo-advisors, which are pieces of software that help investors make automatic investment decisions. There are robo-advisors in law firms that sift through bankruptcy cases and help legal staff make decisions about how to handle particular situations. We're going to start to see this become more and more pervasive throughout our society. And the question is, what is the impact on the economy going to be? And there's some pretty sobering statistics. A report was put out by CETA late last year, and in that report, they estimated that up to 40% of the jobs in the Australian economy could be impacted by automation by 2025. that when we bring in new technology, there are always new jobs that will be created. The question is, because of the acceleration of technology, will the people who will be displaced be reskilled with the kinds of training that they need to take advantage of these new jobs, many of which will be technologically oriented? It is something that we as a society need to think about, because this is a real near-term impact. So I hope I've given you more than a couple of things to think about today, and I hope you enjoyed this little ride into the future. Thank you once again.